When Emma Collins boarded the plane from Ontario, her heart was full of excitement and anticipation. She had been planning this surprise visit for weeks, meticulously coordinating every detail so that her arrival in Austin, Texas, would catch her boyfriend, Jason Miller, completely off guard. And as the flight descended over the sprawling cityscape, she imagined the look on his face, the warm embrace, and the weekend they would spend together exploring local cafes, parks, and the quirky corners of the city that Jason loved so much. Yet beneath her excitement lingered a small, nagging unease. She had received strange messages over the past month from an unknown number, cryptic warnings that she had dismissed as pranks or spam. But now the words echoed in her mind with unsettling clarity. And as she wheeled her suitcase through the bustling terminal, the sense of being watched grew heavier, an invisible weight pressing down on her, though no one seemed to be paying her any attention. And in that moment, she brushed aside the feeling, attributing it to travel fatigue and excitement. But fate, as it would soon reveal, had a darker plan waiting just beyond the airport doors. For Emma's optimism and careful planning could not have prepared her for the chain of events that were about to unfold, starting with her first steps into the Texas heat, the humid air clinging to her skin like a warning she did not yet understand. The taxi ride to Jason's apartment passing uneventfully at first, yet each street corner seemed to carry a subtle sense of foreboding. And when the car finally pulled up in front of the modest brownstone where Jason lived, she felt a mix of relief and lingering tension. The city that had always promised adventure now whispering threats in a language she could not yet decode. And as she climbed the steps and pressed the buzzer, her heart raced with anticipation and unknowingly with fear, because, lurking in shadows that she could not see, someone was already aware of her presence. Someone whose intentions were far from innocent. Someone who had been tracking her movements, piecing together a plan that would turn this dream visit into a nightmare. And while Jason, completely unaware of the danger, opened the door with a grin, Emma stepped into the apartment, her suitcase trailing behind, completely oblivious to the figure outside the window, to the phone call made in hushed tones just moments before, to the eyes watching her from a distance. And that evening, as laughter and conversation filled the apartment, the world outside prepared to shatter her reality in ways no one could have imagined. The following morning, Emma woke to the sound of sunlight streaming through the blinds and the faint hum of the city beyond, feeling refreshed and optimistic, unaware that the previous evening's warmth and laughter had already been noted and recorded by someone with sinister intentions. As Jason prepared breakfast in the kitchen, humming a tune and chatting casually about their plans to visit the local museum and the nearby botanical gardens, while Emma unpacked her bag, arranging clothes and personal items with care. Yet each movement seemed to draw the invisible eye closer. Every laugh and gesture observed, catalogued, and analyzed. And outside, in the quiet of the alley behind the apartment, a shadow lingered, crouched behind a dumpster, its owner's face obscured, hands gripping a camera phone, capturing images, while elsewhere, in a dark sedan parked a few blocks away, another figure monitored every notification, every social media update, piecing together a profile of the unsuspecting visitor. And as the morning hours passed, the cheerful atmosphere inside the apartment belied the meticulous planning unfolding outside. For the predator had already mapped escape routes, timed the comings and goings of neighbors, and ensured that no one would witness the approach. And when Emma suggested they take a walk to the nearby coffee shop, Jason laughed and grabbed his keys, unaware that this simple excursion had been anticipated. And as they stepped into the sun-drenched street, Emma's hair catching the light, laughter spilling from her lips, the distant footsteps following them blended seamlessly into the ambient noise of the city. And each step they took toward happiness brought them closer to the precipice of disaster. As the plan, patiently constructed over weeks, moved into execution, and yet in her mind, Emma felt nothing but the thrill of reunion, nothing of the danger, nothing of the malice that now hovered invisibly in her surroundings. Plotting, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And in those fleeting hours, the city, buzzing with life, remained oblivious to the tragedy in preparation. The weekend that had promised joy and love inching inexorably toward horror, and as they passed by a corner store, waving to neighbors and exchanging casual greetings, the predator remained unseen, every friendly face masking the tension that threaded through the air, until finally, as they reached the quiet street near a small park, the shadow fell into place, a silent witness with deadly intent. The perfect storm of circumstances converging on one unsuspecting visitor from Ontario, whose excitement and hope would soon collide with unimaginable violence. And while Emma and Jason paused to admire the greenery, neither could sense the eyes that had been on them since the moment she arrived, eyes that would ensure that this reunion would never reach its expected conclusion. By mid-afternoon, Emma and Jason had returned from their walk, stopping briefly at a local cafe where sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting warm patterns on the wooden floors as they sipped coffee and chatted about plans for the weekend. Completely immersed in each other's company, their laughter echoing softly, oblivious to the surveillance that had been following them since her arrival. And as they stepped back into the Texas heat, the city streets now busier with traffic and pedestrians, the predator tracked their movements with clinical precision, recording the exact time they entered the building, noting the security cameras, the residents, the layout of the apartment complex, and the subtle patterns of daily life that would later ensure that no one could intervene. While inside the apartment, Emma unpacked further, arranging souvenirs from Ontario and sharing memories with Jason. And though the atmosphere remained cheerful and light, a chilling undercurrent existed just beyond the walls, a silent observer moving through the shadows, eyes trained on the smallest details, ready to exploit any lapse in attention. And when the couple decided to watch a movie, laughing as they argued over which film to choose, the predator's plan continued to unfold flawlessly, coordinating with an unseen accomplice, ensuring the timing was perfect. And as night approached, the ordinary sounds of the city, the distant sirens, the hum of traffic, the occasional barking dog masked the approaching danger, the careful orchestration of a crime that would leave the city shaken. And Emma, trusting in the safety of her surroundings, leaned against Jason, her head resting on his shoulder, unaware that outside the apartment someone was making final preparations, testing locks, observing patterns, calculating escape routes, and reviewing the sequence of events while every detail of her day from the morning coffee to the afternoon walk was meticulously logged and analyzed to ensure that the eventual attack would be swift, precise, and devastating. And as the couple finally settled in for the night, the predator's shadow waited patiently, hidden in plain sight, a silent and lethal presence, marking the beginning of a nightmare that would irreversibly shatter the life Emma had so eagerly arrived to enjoy, proving that the cheerful reunion she had envisioned was already doomed, and that the facade of normalcy inside the apartment masked the deadly intentions that lurked just beyond the walls, ready to strike at the perfect moment when hope and happiness were at their most vulnerable, leaving nothing but shock, grief, and unanswered questions in their wake. As evening fell over the city, Emma and Jason decided to prepare dinner together, the kitchen filled with the aroma of sautéing vegetables and spices. And though the scene was ordinary and comforting, every movement, every sound, every casual laugh was being watched, recorded, and anticipated by someone lurking just beyond their awareness, a figure who had spent days, perhaps weeks, tracking Emma's routines, her social media posts, her travel plans, and now knew exactly how to approach, how to strike, and how to disappear without a trace. And as Jason chopped vegetables with practiced ease, teasing Emma about her clumsiness with a knife, she laughed, the sound ringing clear and joyful. Yet outside, the predator's patience and meticulous planning ensured that nothing would go awry. From timing to escape routes, every step choreographed to perfection. While inside the apartment, the couple discussed weekend plans, movies, and even potential trips, the mundane and the cheerful creating a stark contrast with the danger that closed in like a tightening noose. And as they set the table and shared the first bites of their meal, shadows shifted outside the windows, unseen by anyone inside, the faintest movement signaling the culmination of long preparation. And when Emma excused herself to freshen up, unaware that a car parked across the street had been left running for hours, with a figure inside monitoring every door and window, every floorboard and light switch, the predator's anticipation grew, the thrill of control and impending violence intertwining in a cold and calculated manner. And as Emma returned to the table, she found Jason smiling, oblivious to the danger, their conversation continuing as if the world itself had paused, while outside, the observer adjusted their position, ensuring an unbroken line of sight, noting every possible exit, calculating the precise moment to act. And when the couple finished eating, laughing over a minor mishap with spilled sauce, the predator's presence remained hidden, silent, patient, a storm waiting to erupt. And as night deepened, the city lights glinting off windows and cars, the ordinary sounds of life, the distant music from nearby apartments, the low murmur of traffic, the occasional barking dog served as a perfect cover for the deadly intentions that had been set in motion. And in that quiet, domestic moment, Emma remained blissfully unaware that her surprise visit, filled with love and hope, was on the brink of being transformed into a tragedy that would shake not only those who loved her, but also the community that would struggle to understand how such violence could strike so suddenly, so close, and so completely without warning. Later that night, Emma and Jason settled into the living room, the soft glow of a table lamp illuminating the space as they scrolled through photos and messages on their phones. sharing stories and memories, unaware that the predator's gaze had been fixed on them for hours. Each detail of their interaction catalogued, every sound outside recorded, and every potential escape route noted. As outside the apartment, shadows moved quietly. A dark sedan parked inconspicuously just beyond view, the engine off, the headlights dimmed, and inside, the warmth of their connection made them oblivious to the meticulous planning occurring in real time, while the predator, having studied the building layout, knew exactly which entrance to approach, which door to manipulate, and how to exploit even the smallest distraction. And as the couple laughed over an inside joke, leaning into one another, their innocent joy only heightened the predator's anticipation. Who imagined the perfect timing to strike, a chilling contrast to the ordinary intimacy of the moment? And as Emma suggested, they play a game, Jason fetching a deck of cards. The predator outside adjusted his position to ensure maximum control over the situation, noting the positions of doors and windows, listening for movements inside, the faint sound of laughter serving as a soundtrack to the unfolding plan. And when Emma went to refill their glasses of water, she paused at the window, admiring the city lights, completely unaware that just across the street, a figure remained hidden, eyes tracking every motion, calculating, plotting, and waiting for the perfect opportunity. And as Jason shuffled the cards, smiling, the predator's patience remained unwavering, a silent tension building to a breaking point, while inside, the apartment remained filled with warmth and love, the television softly playing in the background, the city alive outside. Yet the calmness belied the storm approaching, for, in the predator's mind, every detail had been rehearsed, every possible obstacle accounted for, and the culmination of weeks of surveillance, planning, and obsession was about to converge on this unsuspecting couple. And in those fleeting hours of innocence and joy, Emma and Jason could not have imagined that the night would soon be shattered by violence, fear, and the realization that the world they thought safe was anything but, and that in a matter of moments, their lives would be irreversibly changed, leaving behind only questions, grief, and the haunting memory of what should have been a joyful reunion. As midnight approached, the apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the faint sounds of the city outside. Emma and Jason, sitting together on the couch, sharing whispered conversations about the days ahead, planning future trips and reminiscing about old memories. Yet every ordinary moment inside was meticulously observed, analyzed, and anticipated by a presence lurking just beyond their awareness. For the predator had spent countless hours preparing for this exact night, studying their routines, identifying vulnerabilities, and timing each potential movement with precision. And as Emma stood to fetch a blanket, stretching her arms and yawning, she remained blissfully unaware that the hallway outside their door had been studied, the lock mechanism observed, and the pattern of every neighbor's movement accounted for, while the figure in the dark sedan across the street adjusted the rearview mirror, eyes fixed, tracking their every step, phone in hand, recording, confirming, and coordinating with unseen accomplices to ensure the attack would be executed without interruption. And when Emma returned to the couch, Jason holding the blanket and smiling, neither could sense the invisible tension threading through the building, the carefully orchestrated preparation that had gone unnoticed by all. And as they settled in under the blanket, laughing softly and leaning into each other, the predator's plan moved silently closer to fruition. Steps, gestures, and routines all aligning perfectly. And outside, the night seemed ordinary, the city streets emptying gradually, lights flickering on in distant apartments, unaware of the sinister design being enacted in the shadows. And as Emma dozed briefly against Jason's shoulder, the predator's gaze never wavered, patience unwavering, mind calculating, the timing perfect, knowing that the culmination of weeks of planning was nearly at hand. And though the couple believed themselves safe in the warmth of domestic intimacy, in reality they were on the precipice of unimaginable danger. For the predator had rehearsed every possible scenario, every contingency, and would not be deterred by the mundane or the unexpected. And in the silence of the night, the ordinary sounds of the city, the distant car horn, the faint shuffle of footsteps, the hum of streetlights, a calculated convergence of obsession, malice, and timing that would soon explode into violence, altering lives forever, and leaving only grief, shock, and the haunting question of how such horror could unfold so suddenly, so close, and so mercilessly in what should have been a night of love and reunion. In the early hours of the morning, when the world outside was cloaked in darkness and the city streets were almost silent, Emma stirred slightly on the couch, still wrapped in the blanket with Jason, unaware that the predator, having tracked every movement since her arrival, was now preparing to close the final phase of the plan. And as Jason adjusted his position to make her more comfortable, he hummed softly, the sound echoing in the apartment and seemingly harmless, yet outside, in the shadows, across the street, and behind nearby structures, the predator checked and rechecked escape routes, noted the angles of streetlights, confirmed that no neighbors were awake, and ensured that every potential witness was either distant or distracted. And the meticulous coordination between accomplices, if any, was verified silently through devices and signals, every second aligning perfectly for the impending attack. And inside, Emma yawned, stretching, her movements innocent, ordinary, human. Yet, in the predator's eyes, each gesture was an opportunity, a trigger point in the carefully orchestrated plan. While the couple discussed plans for breakfast and the day ahead, blissfully unaware of the tension gathering just beyond the windows, the quiet hum of the refrigerator masking the heartbeat of a stalking presence. And as Jason stood to pour them both coffee, Emma glanced out the window, her curiosity innocent, her attention fleeting, completely oblivious to the figure partially concealed by the night, who adjusted their position to remain unseen, whose eyes had not left her since the moment she landed in Texas, and whose mind calculated every eventuality, ready to strike with precision. And when Jason returned to the couch, carrying the mugs and smiling, the predator's patience remained absolute, a dark anticipation building as seconds turned into minutes, the plan now nearing execution, while inside, the apartment remained a haven of warmth and laughter. The hum of appliances, the faint sounds of the city blending seamlessly, and the couple's ordinary morning routine created a stark, chilling contrast with the danger poised outside. For in mere moments, the delicate balance between life and death would be shattered, and the predator's presence, invisible, relentless, and meticulous, would intersect with the unsuspecting visitors from Ontario, transforming joy into horror, trust into fear, love into tragedy, and the ordinary, sunlit streets of Texas into the backdrop of a nightmare. A calculated collision of innocence and malevolence, proving that sometimes, even in the quietest moments, danger waits patiently, unseen, unstoppable, and ultimately devastating. As the morning sun began to cast a pale glow over the city, Emma and Jason decided to step out briefly to pick up some breakfast from a nearby cafe, unaware that this simple excursion had been meticulously anticipated by the predator, who had mapped the streets, timed the traffic, and observed the routines of every neighbor to ensure no interference. And as they walked down the quiet street, the hum of distant traffic and the chirping of birds masking the subtle sounds of surveillance, Emma chatted animatedly about returning to Ontario and the events she planned for the next week, while Jason smiled and laughed, completely unaware that their every word and movement had been recorded, analyzed, and stored by a presence that had been tracking them since her arrival. And as they approached the cafe, the predator shifted position to maintain an unobstructed view, blending seamlessly into the environment, as inconspicuous as a shadow, every sense alert, ready to exploit the first lapse in attention. And when the couple ordered their breakfast, their laughter mingling with the clatter of dishes and the low murmur of early customers, the predator calculated the timing of their return, the exact moment when the apartment would be unguarded, when every door, window, and pathway had been assessed for the most efficient approach. And as they carried their food back, Emma holding a small bag of pastries and Jason balancing 2 cups of coffee, the predator's patience remained absolute, the anticipation building, the plan moving closer to execution with each step, while the couple, immersed in conversation and the delight of ordinary life, remained entirely unaware of the imminent danger. The juxtaposition of their happiness and the meticulous preparation of malevolence outside creating a tension invisible to anyone inside. And as they entered the apartment building and began to ascend the stairs, the predator's presence remained undetected, every detail of the approach rehearsed, every possible interference accounted for. And as Emma and Jason settled once again into the familiarity of their home, unpacking the breakfast with laughter and casual chatter, the predator waited in the shadows, calculating, planning, and preparing, a patient and chilling force ready to turn this mundane, joyful morning into an unthinkable nightmare, proving that no amount of caution or planning on the part of the victims could prevent the impending collision of life, love, and calculated violence, and that the ordinary streets, cafes, and apartments of Texas were about to become the stage for a tragedy that would leave shock, grief, and disbelief in its wake. By mid-morning, the apartment seemed calm and ordinary, sunlight spilling through the windows, highlighting the cozy furniture and the scattered remnants of breakfast, with Emma and Jason laughing over a minor spill and discussing plans for the day. Yet outside, the predator had positioned himself with precision, crouched in a concealed location, eyes trained on every door, window, and corner, ready to act the moment the opportunity arose. And as the couple carried on with their mundane tasks, Seema organizing her belongings, Jason checking his messages, the predator's anticipation grew, each second bringing them closer to the culmination of weeks of surveillance and planning, while a second accomplice, if involved, monitored escape routes and potential witnesses, ensuring that the environment was fully controlled. And though the apartment was filled with warmth, laughter, and ordinary domesticity, the meticulous orchestration of danger had already turned routine movements into triggers for the impending attack. And when Emma went to the living room window to adjust the blinds, sunlight reflecting off her hair, the predator noted the angle, the line of sight, the minimal risk of detection, all factors carefully calculated to ensure complete control. And as Jason continued tidying the kitchen, oblivious to the encroaching threat, the predator's mind ran through the sequence of actions, contingency plans, and potential obstacles, preparing for a moment that would transform ordinary life into horror, while Emma, smiling and humming a tune, had no idea that the very act of moving from one room to another was part of the carefully timed choreography that would allow the predator to strike with devastating efficiency. And as they finally sat down on the couch to relax, a routine they had shared countless times, the predator remained hidden, patient, and relentless. Every sound, every shadow, every heartbeat outside of the victims meticulously accounted for. And in that brief illusion of safety, the couple unknowingly teetered on the edge of a nightmare that would erupt within moments, destroying the world they had believed secure, replacing laughter with terror, warmth with fear, and love with grief, leaving behind a chilling testament to the power of obsession, meticulous planning, and the terrifying reality that in an instant, everything one holds dear can be violently taken away, in a way that no amount of awareness, preparation, or luck. As the late morning unfolded, Emma and Jason remained blissfully unaware that the predator, having meticulously planned every step for weeks, had now moved into the final phase of his attack. And while the couple shared a quiet moment on the couch, sipping coffee and discussing the next few days of their visit, the figure outside adjusted position, ensuring a clear line of sight, the shadows perfectly masking the presence of someone whose intentions were anything but benign. And in a coordinated, calculated movement, the predator entered the building through a side door previously observed for weakness, silent and methodical, navigating hallways and staircases with intimate knowledge of the apartment layout. And when Emma rose to answer the door, believing it to be a neighbor or a delivery, she never suspected the danger waiting on the other side. The predator's patience and preparation now culminating in a horrifying inevitability. And as the door opened, the sudden confrontation transformed the cheerful apartment into a scene of unimaginable violence. The sound of struggle, shouts, and chaos replacing the warm domesticity that had filled the space only moments before. And Jason, caught completely off guard, attempted to protect Emma, but the precision and ruthless efficiency of the predator left little room for resistance. And as neighbors began to notice commotion, the predator executed the planned escape, slipping away into the surrounding streets before anyone could intervene, leaving behind devastation, grief, and a community in shock. And as police arrived, securing the scene and documenting the horror, Emma's life, abruptly and violently ended, became a stark reminder of the vulnerability of the unsuspecting and the terrifying reality of obsession and meticulous planning. And while friends and family tried to comprehend the events, the predator's careful orchestration ensured that the motives, methods, and identity would remain shrouded in secrecy for days. And in the aftermath, the city grappled with the chilling truth that tragedy could strike even in moments of joy and safety. That a surprise visit meant to bring happiness had been transformed into an irreparable nightmare, leaving a permanent scar on the lives of those left behind. And as investigations unfolded, the images, messages, and warnings previously overlooked began to form a haunting puzzle, one that demonstrated how easily trust and comfort could be exploited, and that even in the most ordinary and loving environments, danger could be present, invisible, and devastatingly effective, reminding the world that vigilance, awareness, and caution, though never foolproof, were the fragile shields against the darkest intentions lurking silently in the shadows.